of moving. I'm moving back home to San Diego,
Uh,
but it was the 2 course month, so it was kind of a struggle to keep up with that while in the process of moving. But other than that, it hasn't been too difficult.
okay. Is that going to cause you any difficulty this month, you think?
No, no, no. We're basically almost pretty set because this is just the 1 course this month, so I'm not having to double up on it, so it shouldn't be too much of a hassle to deal with.
Okay, great. Good. Okay. Well, excellent. So, have you had a chance to look at any of the coursework yet, or any of the readings and tutorials that are laid out for
Um,
you?
I actually, yeah, yeah, sorry. I have been. I was actually looking at it right before we started this session. Right now, I was taking a look at the project for this week and
Okay,
just
good.
looking at the instructions and all that.
Now, so this is the language of the lens project for week one we're talking about now. So just bear in mind that read the instructions for that assignment pretty carefully. It may look like something similar to what you've done before, but the focus will be different.
Okay.
So I'm having you. The whole point behind the language of the lens assignment from the cinematography 2 standpoint at least is and as it ties into the other coursework for the week is what I want to start to develop in you is a sense of um, uh, lenses like ingredients to uh, the recipe for your scene. In other words, everything that you're going to do now as a cinematographer is going to be a deliberate creative act. The way you light, the way you shoot something, whether you move the camera or whether you use a static camera. And part of one of the choices that you'll have is which lens do I shoot this with? I have a zoom lens here with several different focal lengths I can choose from, or I have a box of prime lenses. And how do I know which one I want to use? That's the method of thinking now with this assignment. So I'm asking you to do a technical thing in the assignment, but the real results that I'm most concerned with is whether or not you start to get a sense of the identity between two different lenses. Like
Okay.
if you have this is a 50 millimeter lens, for instance, from a still camera, right? So 50 millimeter 1.2 um, prime lens, 50 millimeter prime lens, we call it. Okay, why would I pick this lens to shoot with instead of a 35 millimeter Rokinon Cinema Prime or a 200 millimeter telephoto at T4? What's the difference between the three? Why do I want one over the other? And what do each of those are going to have their own sort of characteristics, and it's not as
Okay.
simple as being more magnification than the other or wider viewing angle than the other. It'll have to do with other properties as well, and those are the things that I'm going to have you looking for and seeing if you can differentiate between. So there'd be a reason why you'd choose a 50 over a 35 millimeter lens, and that goes for your zoom lens as well. I mean, you can still achieve the look of a 50 millimeter lens by picking that focal length within your variety of focal lengths present within that zoom lens. So there'll be a reason why you'll shoot on a certain lens and not on another. Um, so that's the primary thrust of that assignment, and that will go part and parcel with the discussion post, which you should be doing your initial post by tomorrow night, by the end of tomorrow night, and that is in response to the materials on the discussion page. I have you look at some clips from the motion picture Cinderella Man, and have you give me your, in your own words.
Hold on. The sound cut it out. I don't know if I can. I don't know if you're still there.
Oh, yeah. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, yeah. It kind of like the sound went out for like a minute there. I can hear you now. You're good.
Okay, we got big storms over here, so that could be why. Incidentally, if you lose me, we can continue this
Okay.
via cell phone. Um, let me give you my cell phone number down here in the little chat box, and if you need it, it'll be here. Uh,
Okay.
okay, so if we get disconnected, just use that cell phone number, and we can finish the session via telephone. So what I was saying was the reading. The readings and the discussion post for this week are about the boxing film Russell Crowe, Cinderella Man, shot by Salvatore Totino, directed by Ron Howard, and it'll be an analysis of the fighting sequence from Cinderella Man, the fight between Max Baer and Russell Crowe's character. And it comes from the point of view of Salvatore Totino's lens selection and his shot design. So it'll be a conversation that starts your brain thinking about, why did he shoot this fight on wide angle primes instead of telephoto lenses or using a zoom, and he's going to talk about his reasons why in his interview. So you'll watch a craft truck interview with Sal Totino, and he'll talk to you specifically why he chose certain lenses to shoot that sequence. And then you'll look at the sequence and look at the original fight, the historical fight, and how it was shot. And then hopefully those differences will leap off the screen at you, hopefully. And they typically do. Everybody seems to have some pretty distinct opinions about how they feel about the sequence. Um, so that's what we have in store for you this week. And then just one note about the research papers. It has come up a few times in the past, in the recent past, as a matter of fact. You'll have to do one. We call them cinema spots or C spots. Each week you do an analysis paper on a topic relevant to that week's coursework. So, for instance, this week is lenses and shot design. Your C spot will be choose a cinematographer. I give you the list of American Society of Cinematographers enrollment, and you can pick a cinematographer off of that list. It's in your read and review section. Or you can pick a DP that you really admire who maybe shoots some content that is not yet recognized by the ASC, but his work is totally valid, and you can talk about that cinematographer or anyone off of the list relative to the conversation about lenses and shot design, and tell me, what has this individual shot lately, and what's their approach to it? How do they choose their lenses, or do they use special camera supports, or what is it about their shooting style that you admire? And when you do a paper like that, have you done research papers in the past?
Yeah, I've done them a lot, mostly like throughout high school and that a little bit of community college. So
Okay,
I'm
good.
very familiar with research papers.
Good. So, I mean, you know about using citations and using credits for images that you use. I highly recommend using images. They're easy to grab off of the internet, and YouTube links for that matter. Just when you do that, use appropriate citations. So we're always giving credit to whoever the original author of that content was. Use a bibliography at the end that lists all your research sources. So we know where you got your information from. Very likely you're going to quote people from magazine articles, and so forth. And so just use, common sense and proper structure when you create a research paper. Don't give me a movie review and don't give me an opinion piece. I liked the movie because it was action packed and I felt like I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. That's great, but we are going to try and stimulate a little bit deeper conversation this month, and we're going to do it relative to the topics we're discussing. So that'll involve, a little closer attention to detail when you watch clips or when you screen a movie. Looking for key elements, like lens selection, shot design, or camera movement or something. Pick out some extraordinary aspect of a body of work or a cinematographer, and talk about that in your paper. And uh, obviously I'm your instructor, so I'm one possible audience for your paper, but don't make it about an exchange between simply you and I. Write the paper with the idea that other individuals will read this paper as though you were writing an article for a magazine. Tell us your opinion on Salvatore Totino's lens selection technique in the movie Cinderella Man. So then you'll research the points a little bit, talk about the aspects that stood out to you or that you felt represented this style or that tone, and be specific, and don't be afraid to be what should we say, don't be afraid to speak with authority, because by the end of this course, hopefully you'll have the awareness and some of the education that will allow you to talk about these concepts confidently and with authority. A lot of folks are afraid to assert their newfound knowledge, and we want you to get used to talking academically about the craft that you are preparing yourself for, so that as you get out into the workforce and you're required to communicate with collaborators like producers and directors and actors and crew, that you do it in a way that reflects your education, your professionalism, and your knowledge and understanding of the work at hand. So that's the approach I want you to take. Don't some people blow off the C spots and say, it's just a book report or whatever, and it's really not. It represents 10% of your grade each week, I believe, and it's a significant part of your evolution as a cinematographer or as a director, whatever it is that your career is going to ask of you down the road. Do you have a preference at this point of what you want to get into?
Um, as of now, I've taken film courses like throughout high school and all that. I've always wanted like to be an editor and eventually get into directing and producing that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, like, I enjoy all aspects of creating film, like from writing to production to the editing to the basically anything that needs to be done. I enjoy doing.
Okay.
So for me, I see myself doing anything.
All right. Well, maybe this course then will steer you in a direction. Maybe after working with this material for a few weeks, you'll feel some kinship to it, and you'll want to pursue it further. That would be great. Or maybe it will awaken in you your desire to be an editor or a director or something, and the knowledge will work, uh, in conjunction with that goal as well. I don't always get cinematographers and gaffers in my classes, but usually by the end of these classes, folks have a pretty good understanding of what they want, uh, because the material has informed them in some way that helps them make a decision about their career path. So uh, I look forward to seeing how you work with that, and see if you have any sense of what direction you want to go in when you get out of here. Um,
Yeah.
did you have any questions? Did anything stand out for you in your cursory look at the course for the month? Any of the readings or tutorials?
Um, Not really. I mean, most of it seems like pretty straightforward and it's pretty understandable. I haven't really. I've looked through I've mostly looked at the discussion and the project for this week,
Mm-hmm.
and they seem pretty straightforward. Like I don't see myself having a problem with them
Okay, good.
for now. But if I definitely do have a question or anything, I'll definitely will I will send you a message or email you.
Yeah, reach out.
Ask those.
And
Yeah,
don't wait either. If if something comes up, uh, you get called in for extra hours at work, or you get sick, or I don't know, the dog ate your computer. Just involve me sooner than later, so that we can give you more solutions to getting your work done on time, as opposed to telling me after the fact when it's all over, and then I don't have any choice but to dock you for late, penalties and stuff like that. The sooner I
yeah.
know that you're having
Okay,
a problem, the sooner we can solve it for you. Okay.
sounds good.
Good. So yeah, I mean, week one and week two, you're shooting video, and then you're pulling screen grabs off the video and plugging them into the worksheets. That's week one and week two. So it is pretty cut and dry. But like I said, pay attention to what you're being asked to shoot or what you're being asked to light, and look for the key concepts that are outlined in the instructions, and you'll be fine. But always, obviously email me or leave me a phone message or something with your questions, and I'll get back to you. Um, Also, don't forget on the discussions to leave responses for your classmates. That's been something that's been happening a lot lately. Folks are either not willing, not able, or forget about responding to other folks' discussion posts, and that's 20 points of your discussion grade is your responses to your classmates. So if you forget doing that, the best you're going to do is an 80.
Yeah, I'm the victim of that. I've so time to time I just lose track and forget to respond to a couple here and now and then. But
Yeah.
I would usually try to at least get it at least one respond, at least one person.
Okay,
But
good. I mean,
yeah, I'll definitely make sure I dip those in.
I usually leave those response opportunities open for a good week after the posts have been made, just to give everyone time to sort of remember that they forgot to respond, or to figure out what they want to say. Sometimes responses don't come to us right away and we got to mull it over for a while, whatever the case may be. I usually leave it open for about a week, and then I close the discussions. So you should have plenty of time to respond in that respect. Um, what else can I say about this month? I mean, we talked about discussions, we talked about C spots, we talked about your projects. There is a fairly extensive amount of reading. I had one student level an accusation at me a couple of months ago that it was too much work and taking up too much of his time. To which I said, "Cowboy up, buddy.
Yeah, I
This
lost you
is
there.
cinematography class. This isn't some of the other classes you can afford to be a little bit less involved, or there's less reading to do, I'm sure. But cinematography is a complex craft. It's science and it's art, and it's a little bit of magic all wrapped into one. And it's also a position of responsibility out in the world. If you're a cinematographer, people tend to look at you and depend on you for answers to their problems, even when you have no idea how to solve it for them, except to comfort them and let them know that everything will work out fine as long as we stick to the plan and we do what we prepared for in pre-production. But the cinematographer occupies a position of authority and respect on the set, and as a result of that, with great power comes great responsibility. And of course, there's no shortage of reading on the topics of camera movement and lighting and lenses and so forth. Get through it the best you can. Um, you do get quizzed on a lot of material, but all of the questions come straight out of the reading. There's no quick trick questions in there. If you're doing a decent job of reading, don't skim so much because you'll miss a lot of the finer points. But if you give it a decent read, not a close read, you don't have to sit there and take 2 hours to read a page, but look it over pretty good. The questions, the answers should stand out to you from the reading. So don't be afraid to roll your sleeves up and get involved with that. Um,
Okay.
some folks are a little intimidated by the quizzes, but I say, hey man, give it a decent read and look for the topic sentences, man. That's where the questions are coming from. Every section's got a key point in the
Yeah.
textbook. So whether it's cinematography by Blaine Brown or filmmaker's eye, whatever I've got you reading, each section there's a basic point being made, and typically in the first few paragraphs you're going to find the answer to the questions that you have. So, and each quiz obviously is open book. So that's basically it. That's what's in store. So no questions, nothing right now that's presenting an issue. Or...
Mostly just seems like you said, just kind of dry the first couple of weeks, and then, I mean, yeah, like the reading, like you said, the reading. I've already started. I think I did the first couple of readings already, so they were like I just like
Great.
did a quick read, got the main gist of it. Not too much trouble.
That's a good point to make. I know that LA Film School wants you to be able to do a discussion post without any prior knowledge of a concept. But I, in many cases, don't really see how that's possible if it's material you've never encountered before. So it's always a good idea to get your
Yeah.
reading views out of the way in the beginning of the week, because stuff's going to start stacking up by the end of the week, your discussions and your C spots and your project and your quiz. So you don't want to leave your reading to last. You want to get that out of the way as soon as you can, and that'll help you right away with your first discussion anyway. So if that's what you're doing, that's perfect.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. It's helped in the past, so don't see no reason why not continue doing it now.
Excellent. Great. Well, all right. I mean, tonight's kind of an introductory session, so that's all I wanted to cover with you. So, I mean, if you don't have any other questions, we can end this session, and you can get going with your coursework. Or, I mean, you can use this time now if you want to. If you have anything that you want to talk about or ask me about, before we get started here, you're welcome to do that as well. I like to give a little bit of an open forum at the end of every go-to session, and I'll address, any questions that you have. I've got 27, 28 years on set, and I've worked in three major departments: the grip department, the camera department, and the lighting department. So from that point of view, I can typically answer just about anything, any questions that you might have. Or I can direct you to some.
Yeah, I mean, right now my fiance, she just came home. She wants to get dinner. So, oh yeah, sorry.
Good. Do that and reach out
I
to
was just saying that my
me.
yeah. So the next week, I mean, I can definitely do the next one. If I have questions, I'll definitely come up and ask you for them.
Not a problem. This is your time. Use it however you like. Right now, if she cooked, I recommend you get in there and enjoy it.
Yeah. All right. Well, I just want to thank you for your time. Gave
Yes,
me a
sir.
more like in-depth discussion about all this.
Absolutely. Have a good evening, and
All right.
look
Yeah,
forward
you
to
too.
working with you this month.
All right. Yep. You too.
All right.
Talk to you later.
Take care.